It's really an absolute honor for me to introduce you for us. I've loved working with you for many years through different companies, and it's truly, truly an honor to have you with us today. Your CEUs are always phenomenal, and I know today will not disappoint. So thank you, and thank you to everyone who's been able to tune in. And for us, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you so much, guys. Welcome to the Art of Innovation CEU. First, I want to thank Decorative Materials, Caitlin and Kristen for working with us and setting this up for all of us to kind of get to hang out and enjoy and exchange some ideas. I also want to say hello to my coworker, Lacey Miller. She's with us on the phone, and she is awesome. Love her. I hope you get to meet her all at some point. And she also was instrumental of setting this up for us. So today we're going to talk about innovation. But before we get going, this is a CEU. I know some of you have questions about registration for the CEU. What's going to happen is after the CEU is over, I believe Caitlin will email all of you a certificate that I sent to her. It's a registration certificate. It's already pre-signed, predated, everything is done on it. So all you have to do is utilize that certificate to basically self-report with any organization you want. This is an IDCEC accredited course in the creativity category 1.1. So, and that's all on the certificate. It explains to you the category of the CEU. So if you want to register it with AIA, IIDA, ASID, IDCEC, IDC, all of these basic organizations will accept the CEU as long as you need that category, which is the creativity category. And also to make sure that you do get the credit once you self-report, I will take a list of all the attendees and I will submit that to IDCEC, the big umbrella that covers all the continuous education for all organizations. So if they ever have a question or your credit didn't show up, you know, they have a reference that you were a part of this event. So housekeeping things, we're gonna do the CEU actually full, and it's about an hour. And after that, we're going to do the Q&A and comment section and exchange section, just to allow people, if they want to get back to work, they could get back to work. If they don't want to be a part of the sort of the post engagement of questions and comments. So any questions you have as we go, just put them in the chat. Caitlin is going to gather all these questions and comments, and we're going to get to address all of them at the end. And for any reason you cannot be a part of it at the end, you could just email it to Caitlin, whatever you need, and I'll make sure I reach out directly to you and answer all your questions. Okay, so my name is Feras Irikat. I'm the creative director for a company called Lunada Bay Tile. I've known Kristen for a long time, which is kind of cool, but like it does, you know, age me a little bit. I've worked for several tile companies in the past. I've now been working for Lunada Bay Tile for about 8.5 years. It's been a wonderful experience that allowed me to utilize a lot of my thought process and the way I work and the culture that I want to create in the company. Allowed me to do that for myself and my team members. Today, we are going to talk about a very important topic. We're going to talk about innovation. And innovation, we've been seeing this word floating around since basically the beginning of COVID or the restrictions of COVID. You started to see people on business news, on political news, on social news, talking and specifically mentioning the word, it's time to innovate. It's time to innovate on your business. It's time to innovate on your family. It's time to innovate on yourself, because basically we got hit with a situation, in this specific situation is a pandemic, but the situation could have been an economic situation, economic collapse, economic something that happened, which like what happened in 2008, something that shifted the dynamic of our world. And at that time, when something is shifted, change is required. And we started to hear literally constantly, especially if you pick up any of the business magazines, from Fortune 500 to Forbes, any of them, there was like, in the past, it would be an article, like one article every 6 months on innovation. Basically, it was a weekly 2 or 3 articles on innovation in these top magazines. And innovation for me is a very important subject to my heart because it's something I used to teach. I used to teach at the college level, at actually university level as well, in a conceptual design course prior to my tile career. So let me take you through the presentation. I'm going to share a screen. I just want to make sure that you guys see it. So I appreciate like a thumbs up that the screen is populated and you could see it. Actually, I don't see you. So just maybe someone could just verbally say, yes, we see the screen. Art of Innovation.
We do not see the screen.
You do not see the screen. Okay, let me try it again. I'm going to exit. Let me share again. Okay, share. It's the first one, right? Desktop one. Let me do it again. Okay.
We got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. There you go. It just took twice. Don't look at my messy laptop, please. Okay. I'm going to play from the start. And we're going to start the innovation. Now, some of the quotes that before we actually get to the presentation, one of the things that I always struggled with, whether it's with like professionally or personally, or even on the academic side when I used to teach, is some people misunderstood the word innovation. And I always, you know, the struggle that I felt like from people was like innovation meant a complete upside down or a complete shift. Almost borderline confused with invention, like really coming up with something brand new almost. And, you know, that's not innovation. Innovation in its pure sense is creating something, invention is creating something that is never existed before. It's for the first time we see it or get to experience it, right? Innovation, though, is simply taking something that existed, it actually functions, it works, it might not work, it doesn't matter if the functionality is works or it doesn't at this point, but all you're doing is actually slightly adjusting it or changing it. That slight change is actually innovation. So a lot of times when I use the word innovation to people, they felt intimidated because they felt they have to come up with like a new concept. And I'm like, no, all you have to do when it comes to innovation, the true meaning of innovation is basically improving on something or changing something to, you know, add more audience, to add another functionality, create, improve the process or the service. And that word, once utilized correctly, and we start thinking about how we bring it into not just our professional life. Today, we're going to be talking about even our personal life with our families and our friends, and figure out how to use that to our advantage to enhance every aspect of life. Now, some of the most beautiful quotes I got to see in the past few months, again, from David Kester, Chief Executive Officer for the Design Council for North America, also a Harvard professor. He contributes quite a bit to Forbes and Fortune 500 magazines, and we saw a lot of wonderful articles from him the past few months, but these couple of quotes jumped out at me and I love them, and actually they're literally on my creative or my inspiration wall back here. The first one is, in order for companies, sorry, let's go back. In order for companies to survive and to grow and succeed, they need to be innovative. Without innovation, companies die. Without innovation, ultimately society dies. And actually that couldn't be more true. If you think about it, we are a species that, you know, we're able to advance and change quite a bit our life, our function. We were actually somewhat in charge of our evolution. Unlike any other species out there, they just kind of go with the surrounding situations and adapt. We adapt, but we also are in charge of that adaptation. We control that adaptation. It's a mindset, that adaptation. And if we couldn't adapt, or we didn't set our mind to be, actually society would have died long time ago. We would have been an extinct species. And because we're the weakest. We were the weakest species out there. The strongest aspect of our species is our brain. And that brain is in charge of that sort of innovation. Now, there's a secret recipe for innovation, that slight change. Now, before I start telling you one of the main ingredients that is going to basically help us understand innovation better and how we could create innovation and work with it, there was a recent study by Princeton School of Psychology about, a year or 2 years ago, just slightly before the pandemic hit, and that we're actually heavily invested into understanding, the idea of innovation. What can it add to your personal self? And the study basically was about creativity. What can you do to be more creative, in your life? And they found out that the simple act of changing I mean, this is really a study, a scientific study of simple act of changing the way you make your sandwich. So some people have a process. I'm going to put the bread first and then mayonnaise or mustard, whatever, pickles, lettuce, no lettuce. So the simple way of just adjusting that once, that one time, actually enhances your brain creativity by 14%. 14% more creative if you think of a new way to make a sandwich. Okay. The idea that, and the more we actually change, even though we are scared of it, and it's hard to sometimes think about it and implement that change, but the idea of it, as scary as it is, it's actually heavily, heavily rewarding if we start implementing it in simply everyday life activities. Again, as simple as making a sandwich can actually enhance your brain creativity. Now, innovation takes creativity. There is a science behind enhancing that creativity. There's a huge science that's been really studying the brain, its wavelengths, how it works, how it processes concepts and ideas, how it generates concepts and ideas. And today we're going to talk about creativity to understand innovation. So first question, there is a couple of myths out there. Let's address them. The question always, I use that a lot with my family. I have a sister who's a scientist, incredibly really well-known scientist, like big deal, so she's like patents, research, all kinds of things, globally known. But I always talk to her. She has kids, and she's like, she calls me about like, oh, what should I get for this house? What should I do for this style? What should I do for this? Even a shoe, she would like FaceTime me to buy a shoe. And I always like, why are you doing this? She goes, because I'm not creative at all. I'm a more systematic person. I'm more scientific. So you're the creative person that could help me live a nicer life or a better life from that sort of artistic point of view. And I always look at her puzzled. I'm like, first of all, forget the fact that you're a scientist, that you're probably following formulas. For you to be a scientist, you have to find new avenues for your research. Let's not talk about that. You're a mother. That is, for me, the ultimate creative person right there, a mother that has to deal with tiny human beings, that their needs change constantly, not even just change over the years, they change during the day, constantly. You have to be creative and you have to be innovative to provide and create for these kids. So when it comes to creativity, there is nobody more creative than others. It's just what we choose to utilize our creativity or not. There's a myth out there, and it's a very popular myth. It's basically the right brain versus the left brain. And the idea that there's like two types of people when it comes to brain function. There's the more analytical, more scientific, more systematic type of setup on the left brain. And there is the more artistic, creative, poetic people that utilize that one side of the brain. I hate to tell you guys, that's just like some urban legend. That is so not real. Yes, there is two hemispheres of the brain. Yes, they each control a certain aspect or a certain part of the generating the ideas. Yes, one part is more systematic and more precise and more, has more of this sort of systematic approach to ideas and things in front of you. And yes, there is the other hemisphere that has more of the ability for generating creative ideas. But for you as a human being, again, scientifically proven, to actually think of an idea, to not just generate an idea, you actually think of it and process it further, you need both sides of the brain. Literally, network of neurons fire back and forth from each other, create a connection or almost a bridge between these two concepts or these two different worlds. And the only way you could be creative or generate new ideas if these two parts of the brain connected properly. And we're going to talk about how to connect those two parts of the brain properly to become more creative. And next is the self-sabotage. It's not really a myth, but it's a misunderstood concept when it comes to creativity. Self-sabotage is not about self-hating. It's not about, lack of confidence. Actually, some of the most creative people on this earth, and the most successful as well, actually suffer from self-sabotage. And self-sabotage come in a form of, basically fear, self-doubt, And also the more successful you are, the more you have a self-sabotage approach, because you've built something nice, you're something successful. You've all heard this saying that says, like, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, I think, right? If it ain't broken, don't break it. Something like that. You know what I'm talking about, right? So that I don't like. You know, if it's being broken, it's going to be broken one day. So you might as well start thinking about it now, how to make sure it stays stronger and tougher and more and to the next level. So when it breaks, you're already ahead of that game. So I don't like this sort of saying. So self-sabotage actually sometimes come from very, very successful people. Yes, it comes from all of us as human beings, because we are societal sort of beings. We want to be a part of a society, an environment, a group, and for us to be a part of that, society, sometimes we self-sabotage our ideas, our concepts, or our own personal feelings and emotions. So we're going to talk about those as well. So I'm going to tell you my own definition of creativity. When my students used to ask me, like, how do I define creativity personally? For me, it was a lot of times when you talk to artists or designers, it's about coming up with really cool, amazing ideas, or art pieces, or musical, or songs, or whatever it is, pop culture, social, monetary, whatever it is that your idea is going to benefit, is coming up with that idea. And for me, I don't think it's just that. I think creativity has to be producing an idea, but that idea has to have a value attached to it, a value that delivers something to the person that's going to benefit from that idea. So an idea has to have, if you're a designer, you're going to have to attach a couple of values to that design that you're doing. Maybe a functionality value that delivers an aspect of function. Maybe an emotional value that delivers a feeling of that environment. Also, maybe an environmental, value to benefit the environment that's around you. It can be a family, idea. But it has to have value to your family, kids, parents, extended family, whoever. You're going to deliver a value to them, monetary value. It could be for your business. It could be even for yourself, something that you take, an idea for you to take care of your heart and mind. It has to have a value. What is it going to deliver to you? So sometimes focusing on the idea alone is not good enough without attaching what is the value ultimately, because if you attach that value up in front, I call it the brainstorming session for any ideas. I always say, what is the values that this is going to bring to the table before I come up with the idea? I remember when I first joined Lunada Bay Tile, it used to be called Stone and Pewter Accents, and I was brought on to rebrand to Lunada Bay Tile. And the first questions our executive team was asking, like, so what is our logo going to look like and our colors? And I'm like, oh, that comes at the end. Like, that's the last part of the rebranding, is that we're going to work on that. Rebranding is going to start with creating a value for the brand. First, we're going to list all the values that we want to add: quality, service, cultural value, employee value, clientele, relationships. We list all these values before we created the idea of Lunada Bay Tile. So always, sometimes, put the values in your vision before you start thinking about your ideas. Now, generating an idea is not enough to be creative, right? So you actually have to execute an idea of some sort of form. And I'm saying not execute because a lot of people, when I say execute, like, oh, every idea I have to think I have to do. I'm like, no, executing sometimes can be as simple as talking about it. You're giving an opportunity to breathe, an opportunity to live. And therefore, once it's communicated, that execution could actually take a path, or it could not, follow a path because it could not work. Generally, though, ideas are a fleeting moment. If you don't bring it out to world, this is the world I bring my ideas in. I have to bring it out physically. I'm a visual person. So for me to bring those ideas that I see or things that I connect with, I have to put it visually. I don't know why I'm connected to this image or that quote or that picture or that food plate. Something caught my attention. I know for a reason. I don't know what it is yet. I'm going to take it and put it on my wall. Because again, ideas are a fleeting moment. If you don't capture that idea in that moment, which an execution of it, either, making it visible or talking about it, is going to be gone. On average, we generate 65,000 ideas a day. This is on average, and you guys are more creative people. So I'm assuming that you're generating a lot more ideas than 65,000 or thoughts a day. Now, all ideas good ideas? No, we all know that, So sometimes though, you need that process, the stepping process to verify or qualify that idea. Now, I'm gonna tell you something. The biggest saboteur for us human beings, or for ourselves, that self-sabotage moment, is our brain, okay? The reason why it's definitely advanced. It's so advanced that it learned shortcuts. It learned how to actually keep you going throughout the day without having you to put too much thought into it. It comes in the forms of habits. It comes in the form of, I've done this before, so I usually do it. If you think about it just slightly, if you're driving from a location that you constantly go to and from, whether you're from your home to your office or from home to, the kids' school, if you think about that sort of one drive, and if it's always the same, it becomes so almost autopilot at some point that you get in the car. Of course, you're safe because the brain also wants to protect you and protect yourself. So it pays attention to all the danger signs, cars stopping, lights, traffic lights, stop signs, all kinds of things. But in general, that road has already been mapped out for you in the brain, and automatically you find yourself going there. I mean, how many times you wanted to go somewhere and ended up going home or the wrong place that you're frequent, or you take that turn, you're like, I'm not supposed to go here, because the brain is already wired to go in these directions. And that laziness of the brain that says, you know what, I'm going to save you some work here. You don't need to think about that. Just daydream. Think about the dinner tonight and let me figure out how to get you to work. Let me figure out how do you make that sandwich. Let me figure out for you how to make that design. The brain is so lazy that it actually created not just shortcuts for you to do things sort of over and over and over again in the same fashion, especially if they're successful things. But it sabotages any other new thing, because it will make sure that you self-doubt it. It will make sure to tell you, this is not going to work. This is not going to be on budget. There's no way I could manufacture this. There's no way my boss is going to agree to this. There's no way Feras is going to let me do this. This is going to be the self-saboteur, the brain, those excuses. And we all have those. I don't care how creative or how amazing and how successful you are. We all have those. We're going to talk about how to actually overcome these as well. So now, when you're generating an idea, there's a sequence. There's a scientific, literally, the brain goes through a sequence to bring that idea to you, okay? And now we're talking about, success or ideas that's worthwhile, that is going to be actually a part of a design, a process, a thought process, an environment, whatever it is. Now, let's say we work together and our boss comes and, Feras and, Lacey, you guys need to come up with this. I have this challenge. I have this client. This is what I need you to do. Lays out the parameters of the challenge I have. I call it a challenge because everything is a challenge when it comes to generating ideas. Now, no matter who you are, you could be Albert Einstein sitting in front of me, and I'm going to give you a challenge. The first thing that is going to you're going to come up with on the spot is memories, is ideas based on 100% memories, nothing new. It's something you've done before, something you've seen before, most likely actually something that you experienced heavily before, because that memory is so deep. The minute you were facing that challenge, that memory is like, oh, I could solve this. I could help you with this challenge. Just again, the lazy brain doesn't want to do the extra leg, doesn't want to do the extra work. It goes, well, here, you've done this before. I can't tell you how many times I've been on job sites with people, with contractors, colleagues, and I hear this word. I've been doing this longer than you've been alive, or something along those lines. Yeah, but sometimes, we live in a world that we have advanced in the past 5 years. Again, this is according to Fortune 500 magazine a few months ago. In the past five years, we have advanced more than what we have advanced in the past 50 years, 5 decades combined. 5 years of advancement. Again, technological, medical, social, communication, business, more than what we've advanced in 50 years combined. So if you tell me that there's not something new you could learn every day because you've done this and done it so well, I am sorry, you're going to miss out on a lot of great opportunities here. So first sequence is memories. And regardless of who you are, that's what you're thinking of. Oh, as long as you know that this is what I'm thinking of, is memories. A lot of times when you're on a job site, I've seen that happen before, where basically someone like on the spot says, what do you think we do in this spot or in this area? And I've seen people where they start creating sketches, coming up with thoughts, ideas. And that's important because that's kind of engaging you with the environment. You need to do that. But I wouldn't just say, I'm going to do for sure this here and this, and it's going to look like this, and I'm going to call the contractor to make sure this works. A lot of times for me, and I always got to be, I put on this, people put me on this spot, whether it's on a job site, whether it's my bosses, whether it's my colleagues, they put me on the spot to come up with a concept, the artistic creative director. So they look for me for ideas and things that might help them. A lot of times I tell them, I need to sit on this one, because I have ideas, but let me think about this one. So the next sequence, now my boss comes and tells me and tells Lacey, guys, this idea is great that you came up with, but we've done it. This is our portfolio is full of this same concept, same idea, pushes us. Now this is a push. Now, it could be an external push. It could be something that comes from an outside environment. It could be, again, a family member, your children. It could be your spouse. It could be your boss. It could be your client, or it could be yourself. You say, well, this is based on memories. Can I do better? Now you push yourself. Now I push myself, and the next step, I get ordinary ideas. Now, ordinary ideas are basically memories still, but they're slightly changed. I'm going to tweak this here a little bit. I'm going to change the color here. I'm going to make this ceramic instead of glass. Still, basically, it looks like it's a new idea, but it's really not, because it's 100% memory. All I did is just give it a fresh facelift. Again, those do work, and those are important to have. This is, again, your brain helping you navigate your life. It's chaotic. You need to, do things a little bit faster. But in today's world, innovation requires a push, internal push and external push. We need new ideas. We desperately need a new world with concepts and ideas and designs that really changes. And we've seen that just the past couple of years or year and a half, where businesses, you personally change even the way you function at home. And that you had to push yourself. A lot of people didn't like it. I didn't like pushing myself. I hated a lot of the, quarantine, teaching from home, to doing Zoom classes. I was teaching at that time for the Art Institute evening classes. And literally I was like against it. I'm like, I can't teach on camera. I'm a hands-on person. I was literally fighting with my chair about I need to cancel the class. I can't go virtual, and now of course, I was talked into it, and now I realize the benefits and value that brings to me and to my students as well. So ordinary idea, everything we do today needs a push. So now, again, we get an external push, an internal push, whatever it is. Now we start thinking about exceptional, great, original ideas, but it does not happen without the push. If we settle for memories, everything we do from this point on is going to be stale, outdated, and honestly not innovative. And as we saw from David Kessler quote, without innovation, companies die. So innovation requires that push, requires you bringing you out of that comfort memory zone into something maybe different and unique, and a new experience. So how do we have a special idea? Let's talk about that. First, when someone presents you with, we're talking about an exceptional idea. Now we pushed ourselves to get to that exceptional point. Someone pushed us. Now we need to know the process of getting that special or exceptional idea properly done or properly out there. Number one is preparation. Preparation is a crucial part of you being creative. Why is that important? Because preparation is based on knowledge. It's not based on memories. Memories is something you've done. Knowledge is something that you acquire. Behind me is knowledge, a wall of knowledge. It's not well, this is information I collect. I call it knowledge because I collect it. I don't know how it's going to benefit me or what point it's going to benefit me. Some people like to keep it on their computer. Some people like to have it on their phone, whatever that you keep, an inspiration file, they call it. But for me, that's preparation. I cannot come up with an idea without understanding all its limitations and challenges. I can't come up to any of you unless if you if you speak French, but let's say none of us speak French, and I can come to one of you guys and say like, hey, Lacey, hey, Caitlin, I need you to write me a French poem. Can you do it? I very much doubt you'll able to even start with one word. You have to do what? You have to learn French, preparation to create with French. Same with coming up with ideas. For me to understand this new original idea, I have to prepare for it, gather information, gather knowledge, go online, do my research, talk to my client, go in depth in that sort of interview or one-on-one or whatever they call it, the client programming process, to understand who they are, the background, their thought process, their functional life. Not just, I think design for us, and you all know this, I don't need to preach about the importance of design. It's not just about creating a beautiful environment. It's no longer that, because beautiful environment now, with the technology, I could be done on a computer. I don't need a human being. I don't need a designer anymore. I could do it on a computer, okay? And all the material that I use, I could order with a hit of a button. So I still don't need a designer. And I was asked that question a few years ago in a design conference, is ever gonna be with this technology, because they were showcasing virtual reality design programs in that conference. And I was asked the question, is there a time where a designer is gonna be obsolete? Computers will replace them or software will replace them? And I said, absolutely not, because we have the emotional side. Yes, we could create beautiful things, and the computer can as well. But what we have is that moment of infusing emotion, infusing heart in that environment that the computer can't. So it's no longer enough to do a beautiful environment. It has to have a value. It has to have an emotional value. It has to have a functional value. It has to have a personal value. It has to speak to that person. It has to enhance their life, enhance their family's life, enhance their kids' life. That's a huge value. And it doesn't happen simply by a beautiful environment. Preparation is a big part of you getting on the path of creating that original idea. Next, incubation. Have you ever played a puzzle or a game and you find yourself like you're stuck, like Sudoku? You're stuck, and then you walk away, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or you come back the next day, and whatever part you're stuck on, you see it right away. There it is. I found that number that I was looking for. A lot of times you hear it also from people who write, they actually step away from it, walk away from it. When you get angry and you're, something is riling you up and you want to get your emotions out there, they tell you walk away. And the reason why incubation is a moment of clarity, a moment that allows, once I gather this information, the preparation that I prepared, knowledge, research online, communication with my client, communication with my boss, communication with my family, whatever it is, the avenue I'm thinking about, now this is the time to let this information simmer. This is the time to let the network of neurons between sort of the creative side of the brain, which is important. That's sort of the innovative or the creative generation of ideas in that side of the brain, and sort of the systematic side of the brain to engage them together is creating this network of neuron. Sleeping on it. We've all heard that term, sleep on it. This is actually not just a term. This is a scientific reality. For your brain to function properly, you need to let it simmer, because that's the point where information start connecting, and literally a network of neurons is being built or developed, creating these new bridges for ideas to actually come through. So incubation is crucial for all of us. Now, then inspiration will come. Now, inspiration, when you watch any of those YouTube videos about some of the artists, and you start asking them how do you get your inspiration? What inspired you? A lot of them cannot answer that question. I don't know. I was walking and all of a sudden this idea came. I was just looking. I was meditating and I woke up and I thought of this idea. I was literally showering and I came up with this idea. It's not literally. I was sitting with a pen and paper and so focused on it, and the idea, I got inspiration. It's never that. it happens after incubation, you get the aha moment. The aha moment can happen anywhere. Now, this is a very important moment, like the light bulb moment. Like, oh, I got it. Oh, you know what? This might work. Though this is the point where either the idea gonna die or actually take a time to live. So a lot of great ideas throughout our time died in the inspiration moment, because that's where the saboteur of the brain comes up and say, you get that idea, excited about it, it lifts you up, and all of a sudden the saboteur starts working. It's a good idea, but you know what? I don't think the client has the budget. You know, my boss is not going to let me go down that route. You know what? They wanted blue. They don't want teal. Why am I thinking teal? You know, this is the self-saboteur where that inspiration happens. You're excited, and now you started to figure out a way for it not to work. Now, for me, every idea is a good idea. For my work environment. My home environment is a little questionable, but my work environment, I need to get to the next step. After inspiration, I go immediately into verification. Verification is simply, again, bringing that idea out. What I do usually is write it down completely. Like, I don't want it to be fleeting moments. So I always like either write it down, or if it's something that, I need to sketch, I sketch it down. Or if it's something I need to talk about, I actually literally call one of, my colleagues, Chris Brown, or any of our sales team members, and I'll bounce that idea off of them. Verification doesn't mean like making it happen. It's now giving you the opportunity to live out loud. Okay. That's the moment that the idea now became legitimate. And that for that legitimacy, it either gonna grow, or you might research and realize, okay, there should be another path for this. But at least you gave it that legitimate possibility of existing. So for me, preparation is important. Well, not important, is a must. You have to prepare, learn what your challenges are, incubate, sit on it, let it simmer. Take a moment, let it sleep on it, as they say, and then allow the inspiration to come through at any moment of the day. A lot of times, which we'll discuss about, there's a certain time of day that inspiration actually comes through to us. And we're going to talk about these moments so we do not forget them, or not acknowledge them at least. And then finally, you have to make it legitimate. You have to verify that idea. Give it the opportunity to live. Even if it doesn't live for a long time, give it the opportunity to live briefly, because at least you went down the path to maybe experience something so new, so different. That can alter and change maybe your business or your life. Now, why do some people consider themselves more creative than others? Since the 60s, this is a question that neuroscientists specifically, been sort of trying to talk about and research. And, there's a lot of theories out there. Is it nurture? Is this a learned behavior, being creative? Is something that we take in from the environment? Or is it nature? Are we born with this ability to be creative? I mean, I'm born with this talent. Like, that's it. Like, I got lucky. Sorry, guys. You're not as talented as me. And the other people are, basically nurture. You got lucky enough, to live in this country and with this person, and to have this people around you. So which one has the sort of the driver, or the influencer of the creativity on your brain? Now, there was a study that was done in the 70s where they took a set of twins, and they wanted that set of twins specifically because they wanted an identical DNA composite, and they wanted to make sure that they study them in the same environment. So they found out that 80% of your intelligence, okay, this is IQ, okay, it's 100% genetic. You're born with it. Now, is high IQ or intelligence gives you automatic card for creativity? Absolutely not. How many people in your life that you think, oh my God, they're so smart, but I don't know why they're in that point of their life, or something like that. Intelligence only could take you so far, and it stops. Now you need the creativity to make it a part of your life. Creativity, on the other hand, 70% of it was environmental. Is what you surround yourself with, what you give basically the push that's around you allows you to be creative or not creative. Now, I don't know if you guys remember the big lawsuit or not remember. This is so bad to say that. Sorry, you don't remember, but I hope you read about it somewhere. The lawsuit that was from Xerox against Apple and Microsoft. It was, I think it was in 1979 or 1980. And basically the lawsuit, Xerox was, accusing both Steve Jobs and Bill Gates of stealing their basically personal computer ideas. Personalized computer. The lawsuit went on forever. There's amazing videos on YouTube right now. You could actually watch, Steve Jobs talking about what he did and why. And he literally said, and Bill Gates then sued him because he took Xerox's ideas. It was a big mess. And there was a quote from Steve Jobs where he said he was really young and big hair, and in that interview he said basically someone left their garage open, and I went first and grabbed whatever I wanted out of it. That's what I did. So while Xerox sort of came up with the idea of personalized computers, the email personal computer in 1974, decade before Steve Jobs or even Bill Gates incorporated it, decade before, they shelved it. They didn't think that there's a value to it. We are a Xerox company. We're amazing at making copies. Why would we even want to go down that route? They shelved it. Then they allowed Steve Jobs to go in and they called it the park at that time, their creative facility, and meet with their developers because they wanted him to hire them because they didn't want to pay them anymore. And he was like, "You're all coming with me." He saw that. Now he's creative. He's not intelligent. I mean, he's intelligent, but he's more creative at that moment. He recognized in that moment, I could jump on this idea. I'm going to make sure I verify it and see where it goes. And it took him places, of course, as we all know. Is it all nurture, or are we in control? Is it all the environment, or are we in control? Another study that was done in the early 80s where they followed kids from basically, I believe, the 4th grade all the way to high school, senior high school. And during the year, they would give them sort of, IQ tests and creative tests and challenges and all kinds of things to measure their brain activity and their brain creativity. So at age, I believe it was 4.5, 90% of the subjects that they were involved in this study registered at a genius level. Okay. Now, if you ever met a 4-year-old, they're geniuses. No questions, no doubt about it, right? They're able to learn a language 2 or 3, no questions asked. They're fearless. They're always willing to experiment. They're curious. They're always looking for something different. And their brain works in a way that we cannot even comprehend as adults. Right? My niece, I love seeing her. And the first thing I always play with her, she has a Bob the Builder set and she loves building things. It's all plastic. Of course, she's not hurting herself. And she loves doing Play-Doh stuff. And I always take the two and I combine them. I'll tell me what this is. So actually just recently, I took just a little bit Play-Doh and I put one of the Bob the Builder set, screws in it. And, I just showed it to her. I'm like, so what do you see? And I'm writing them down. And she's like, there's an island, there's this. And she came up with 30 different things. And for me, all I saw is a screw in a Play-Doh. Okay. So that genius brain needs to be nurtured, needs to be allowed to be that creative. Okay. So what happened is during the sort of study, they found out that essentially creativity was being drilled out of these people. People are being taught to give the right answers. We all have been taught to give the right answers. The right answer at school, the right answer to your boss, the right answer to get that ring, the right answer to get that marriage proposal, the right answer to please your parents, the right answer for your kids, the right answer for this and that, because we know the right answers could take us places. This is what we learned. And this thought idea that allows us only giving the right answers prevents us from giving sort of answers that we are not sure about. And it makes us scared to give those ideas. In school, I remember when someone wants to say something and want to, participate in one of the projects, I'll see it on their students' faces. They'll be like, they're struggling. They want to say it, but they're afraid that they're going to be judged by their peers or by me. So I'm like, no, don't be scared. No, just let it out. Let it out. Speak it out loud. So we tend to avoid failure or criticism in the name of common sense as well. Common sense for us is again, a defense mechanism. This doesn't make sense. This idea doesn't work. What are you thinking? A levitating pool over in a skyline that has a glass bottom? Are you crazy? How are we going to even make that? I mean, 10 years ago, or maybe whatever, 15 years ago, that was possible if you went 3 feet. I just went drive through Beverly Hills, and I saw this home that doing a 30-foot cantilever pool, all glass. I mean, it's mind blowing what people can do if they allow themselves to speak these ideas out loud. Associative thinking versus creative problem solving. Associative thinking, I want to give the right answer so you're pleased from me. So I'm like the new favorite employee, or I'm the new favorite child, or I'm the new favorite student, or I'm the new favorite instructor, whatever it is, new favorite. I want to do that associative thinking so I belong to that group. And I'm praised for being a part of that group. Instead of creative problem solving, what is that, problem is? On average, or, the study also found out that by age 13, these children from age 4 to 13, they've heard the word yes 5,000 times, and they heard the word no 165,000 times. So not that we need to let our children run loose and do whatever they want, but we need to allow that creativity to happen. And sometimes the word no is a killer for ideas and innovation. What inhibits innovation? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So now let's go really quickly talk about, if you never failed, you never tried anything new. And sometimes failure is scary and it's horrible, and we don't want to go down that route. And we've experienced things that didn't really make us feel good, or maybe may cost us quite a bit of monetary value or even an emotional value. But if you never failed, you never tried something new. I have in front of you, and I want you to take a quick 30 seconds, please, to read some of these failures, the greatest failures of our time. My favorite couple of them is basically Albert Einstein. He was told he was slow, and he should go to a mentally challenged school. He was told by his mother. Bill Gates, basically, he was a dropout, and he was told by many of his professors that he's going to be a nobody. You have all these people. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her TV job, and she was told she was unfit. Walt Disney was a journalist, and he was also fired because he didn't have any original ideas. So the saboteurs sometimes can happen from outside, not just you. But knowing that you are able to continue this journey of creativity and thought-provoking process and innovation, again, in a personal level or professional level, allows you to be maybe a successful failure. And we're hoping that you do not fail, but you need to experience something sometimes to go through it. Common sense is a collection of prejudice acquired by age 18. Albert Einstein. I love this quote, and it was actually really in big, bold print right up here, like right behind me where the logo was, and then we painted, and I had to put it, and I never actually wrote it again. But a lot of times I have like team members, colleagues, something would come, and then they come with the word common sense. Because like, for us, this doesn't make sense, what you gave us. This email doesn't make sense. This paper, this sketch, what is that? Doesn't make sense. And I was like, no, that's prejudice. That's, yeah, you acquired that at age 18. Stop right there. It's not about making sense. Let's figure out how to, for you to make sense. Let's go from there. Now, what inhibits creativity? A wonderful, wonderful scientist by the name of Charles Limp in 1982 went on this path to understand, like, hey, what is this that makes us like not creative? Is there a part of the brain that when we are being creative that gets engaged? So if I know that part of the brain and what it is, maybe I could figure out a medicine or some way to keep it always engaged to be creative. So basically, he took a bunch of classically trained musicians, wired the brain, and had scanners. And basically, at that point, asked them to play pieces of music that they know from memory, based on memory, and absorb their brain basically scans and was noticing like what their mind is going through during that process of playing something from the memory. And then he actually forced them to stop and asked them to immediately start playing something they never heard of before. And upon analysis of, sort of that shift, he found out that there's actually a part of the brain that actually gets disengaged, not engaged, when you're actually challenged to come up with something you've never done before. So outside of the memory realm, something it's new to you. And he found that the part of the brain that gets disengaged is called the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. It's right up here. It's just right above your eyes. And this is literally the Brita filter for your life, okay? This is a must. We all need it, okay? This is the filter that when you go meet the in-laws for the first time, don't say that. Don't wear that. Don't ask that. This is a filter that makes you navigate the world and still make you look good, acceptable in society and, a part of society. We need that. It's important. But this is a major filter because this filter always making sure that you don't kill yourself. You don't, basically out yourself. You don't do this to yourself. It's always like trying to keep you safe and in a good shape, in a good position in front of the world. Now, the dorsal lateral prefrontal cortex, this Breda filter, though, sometimes it's not just filters kind of dangerous or scary or bad ideas that might put you at harm. It actually filters off sometimes anything new that you're not used to. So when it comes this new idea, it starts, basically showing, it filters it out. And because it's new, you need an explanation. This is going to be a failure. I'm going to lose my money. I'm going to lose this. I'm going to go there. I'm going to forget. My boss is going to hate me. And for us, is not going to like it. Blah, 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 blah. This dorsal lateral prefrontal cortex is the main thing that makes you really self-doubt or self-sabotage. But the scientists gave us ways to disengage or train this part of the brain. So we could actually always have the new ideas being filtered out. Now we actually have it in front of us. But before we get to the methods or the exercises that we could do to help disengage this part of the brain, let's talk about the main trigger to come up with a new and creative idea. So there's brain activity. Basically, you go through different sort of stages of brain activity throughout your day. There's three main ones that helps you function as a human being. The first state of mind is called the fetal state of mind. This is actually when you're sleeping. So you're completely subconscious, and your brain is still active because their midbrain, the nervous central system of your brain is still, making sure that you're breathing, all the chemicals, hormones are being distributed properly, the blood is flowing, your heart is beating, it's keeping you alive in a sort of a subconscious format. It's called fetal state. This is actually the regenerating moment. This is the reset button for a lot of your body organs. Reset for your brain, reset for your eyes, reset for your ears, reset for your heart and for your lungs, and also for your muscles. That moment of fetal state allows you to regenerate new muscle mass, new neurons in your brain, helps build your body, basically. So next one is alpha state. This is when I wake up in the morning and I'm still like sort of waking up. I'm engaged in my environment, but I'm not really task focused. Get up, watch some news, drink some coffee, brush my teeth, go for a walk, whatever it is. Alpha state also can be when I'm exercising, when I'm going for a run, also when I'm listening to music, or actually doing any fun activity that I really like, making art, doing puzzles, hanging out with my friends and family, whatever it is. Alpha state is basically a state of mind where your body is engaged, but your brain is relaxed. It's not working so hard. Then I get to work, I drink my coffee, brush my teeth, listen to my news, I get to work, and now I go into beta state. Beta state is a task-oriented state of mind. I'm focused on a task and I need to get this task done. I need to get this challenge done. Now, the question that was posed is like, hey, when we're generating new ideas, creative ideas, what state of mind are we in? Are we generating idea when we're focused and beta state, or are we actually generating ideas when we're alpha state, or generating idea when we're in a fetal state? So I'm going to tell you something. You're generating ideas, new ideas, when you're alternating or really making sure that you're basically allowing yourself to experience all three in the course of the day. So we talked about the process of basically preparation, incubation, inspiration, verification, right? The beginning. So first of all, beta state is basically preparation. You're gathering information, you're focused on that test. So you need to be able to do that for you to gather this information. Alpha state is inspiration. We talked about that alpha state. You're running, you're in the shower, blah, blah. Inspiration usually happens at those moments. During the inspiration moments usually happen in alpha state. And then we talked about incubation, which is sleeping on it or letting sit. And that is the fetal state. For you to absolutely be able to be a creative person, you need to give your body, your mind, the opportunity to experience all three. I remember when I first switched from being a teacher, professor at the university to tile person, I have to do it. Don't judge me for it. I remember my first corporate job working for a company, and I'm not going to say the name. And I went to meet the team, and I had literally team members that coming up to me and they were bragging about how they haven't taken a vacation in a year and how they work 12 hours a day and they were tough. And, you know, somehow I work through the weekends sometimes to get this done. They're bragging about that. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be the people I work with. Like, oh, that's scary. It freaked me out. I was like, these people are not functional. This guy's bragging that he worked 14 hours a day. This guy bragged that he hasn't taken a vacation in a year. This sort of idea of being a workaholic being rewarded, in my head, it was such a weird moment of my life that I'm like, okay, this is not for me. I need to go back and do something completely different. But then I allowed myself to adjust and engage with people and let them know the importance of making sure you're sleeping, making sure you are having the alpha state of mind, the relaxation. If you ever watched, please go on YouTube again. If you ever go and just Google, you know, Facebook campus or Google campus or even Amazon campus, they have many, but like Google them. What do they have in those places? Do they have just offices and desks? No. They have cafeterias, they have coffee shops, they have basketball courts, they have tennis courts, they have arcades over there. They have literally nap rooms. With all of them have nap rooms with chairs that actually have a little hood with little lights and other. Why? Because they're enslaving their people to work 24/7 and they want to create a home environment. That's what people were saying. No, because they want them to alter for them. They know that the science told us for these people that you're hiring, spending all this money to take your company to the next level, they need to go through these 3 states of mind to be functional or creative. So if you ever feel like you're overworked, stop yourself. That's not good for yourself. If you've ever found yourself you're not sleeping enough, stop yourself. If you don't take vacations, please allow yourself to take some time for yourself, because that's an important part. As a boss, myself, I have a team of amazing creative people that I work with. I'm so lucky to have this team. I allow them, it used to be more before the pandemic, but now I allow them once a month. Paid day, and it's not vacation, it's not sick day, it's not, and fully expense paid to go choose a museum of their choice, and or 2 or 3, and go do that for that day. And I will pay your expenses and just do it once a month. We used to do it actually more often than that. And that is important for me because these are my creative team. And if I don't allow them to be, you know, having that moment of regenerating, then I probably haven't done my job properly. Enhancing your creativity. This is about training your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex to engage and disengage. Now, there's temporary solutions and there is long-term solutions. Temporary solutions are getting yourself in an alpha state. Please allow yourself to take a walk, maybe during the lunchtime, make art, any relaxing activity, putting your earpods and, you know, maybe listening to music during work hours, that's okay. Changing your surroundings is important, you know, and I'm not saying to change your paint or something. I always say to people, just as simple like decorative things that you put on your desk, changing them. Some of the photographs, the paintings, whatever. It's, you know, we all know that writers, whenever they want to write or they want to conclude a novel they're doing, they actually go completely into a new environment. And the reason why this is the extra push, they need to put their mind into an alpha state to actually finalize that creative process. And don't get stuck with habits. Habits are so dangerous. At least know what they are and know that you're in control of them. So you're not always one of those people that, why would we do this? We've done this for 30 years. It's never been better. Now I'm going to tell you the past year and a half, we've saw a lot of things that we had to do over and change. And some of us struggled, some of us didn't struggle with that change. And we still know that people are struggling, but sometimes why you're struggling is because you created a habit. If your life was this before, and then all of a sudden you have to do the opposite, which is go out and engage and blah, blah, blah. Actually, it's the other way around. So this is all habitual, and just know these things that you're holding on to so tight are just nothing but habits. Now, getting yourself in a beta state of mind, this is a long-term creative exercises, puzzles, Sudoku. 90% of my apps are Sudokus and puzzles on my phone. So you could do something 5 minutes in the morning when you wake up, 5 minutes before you go to bed, and maybe like during lunchtime, you could play a game or something on your phone. Change yourself when it comes to, challenge yourself when it comes to new ideas. That's actually a push. I call it the push that we need sometimes. If it's not coming externally, you need to push yourself. Again, not self-doubt that it's not going to work. Is how can I make it better? There's two approaches to ideas. This is not going to work. This is going to be a failure. This is going to cost me money. This is going to make me like, it's not successful. This is going to work. What else can I do to make it work better or more successful or more like, research well? Now, gathering new knowledge and experiences, that's important as well. Allowing yourself to really engage with the world that you're in, your industry. You go online, research, magazines, all kinds of wonderful things that allows you to gather knowledge. This wall changes 3 times every 2 weeks. I wasn't, maybe twice every week, maybe less. Just because as I gather stuff up, I just put them on the wall. And when you understand the process of creation is a process of fusion, innovation is a process of fusion. It's taking 2 existing ideas and putting them together, creating one new idea. This is the process of fusion for me, is ideas that I see, which is my tile world, which is right in front of me. I have basically shelves of tile across from this wall, all tile. And then I have this wall, and this process of fusion is sometimes happen. And it's, for me, it's a very like sci-fi. I do actually see the ideas coming together in the middle. Yeah, maybe I should be studied or something, but that does really happen. Process of fusion is taking an idea that exists, functional, good, successful. Taking another idea, functional, good, successful. And now I'm gonna make it into a new idea. That's pure innovation, pure way of adding something, a functionality to this, convenience to this. What happened? The two elements existed, were amazing, worked for decades, for thousands of years. Not the computer, but the abacus was the first computer. So yeah, it could be a computer, but they worked. And all of a sudden, someone, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, fused them together, create something a little bit more convenient for us to take on the road and what have you. That's the process of fusion. Now, innovative companies are going to be successful, going to be drawing ideas from outside, not from within. This is David Kester. I could sit in my office all day and say I'm the most creative person. And at some point, I'm lying to myself, and it's the biggest joke. You really have to look on the outside world sometimes to understand what's happening. Our clients are very, very well diversified and very well traveled and cultured people. So they care about pop culture. They care about economy. They care about business. They care about the news. They care about global issues. So for me to sit in my world and say, I'm just going to be drawing ideas from this little cocoon that I built for myself, it's ridiculous. Even for my company or our business, for us, when we go to trade shows, these like massive, tiring, super expensive trade shows that we used to go to. Now we're going to be doing them virtually. And, that's another platform of change and opportunity of innovation on this sort of thing that we used to do them, not just because we're showing our product and it's amazing. It's gathering knowledge out there from not just from our industry, from everybody around us. And when we go to trade shows, same reason, we're getting information. So for me, there's 2 websites that I love. I'm going to share with you very much. I use them every morning, just for 5 minutes, not more than that, because you could easily get lost in them. One is it's called trendhunter.com, and it's a global, wonderful website that you could go into an architectural category, food category, marketing category, and you just see people posting about the most new ideas they just seen. And it's a fun way to start your brain working. Another idea is, we're not teaching music here, but this story really, when I saw the documentary about Hamilton and Lin-Manuel Miranda specifically, it kind of like brought me to this idea of innovation to a completely different stage for me. Lin-Manuel Miranda, when he basically created Hamilton, it played off of Broadway for 2 years in New Jersey. It was called The Failure. No critic wanted to even address it, okay? He was struggling. He was living off of donations and off of the money he took from his mother to keep this musical going for 2 years prior to its sort of insanity success. He was told by many people in the sort of Broadway world that, what are you doing? You're taking a hip hop musical like Rent or Cats, and you're mixing it with something more traditional, a more historical figure, like Exile. Why you're creating this confusion of these 2 worlds that don't work together, that never existed together? They should not even exist together. And he felt that it's going to work. Now, if you ever watch that documentary, you know that he is basically he's reshaped Broadway. He reshaped the music industry by taking 2 simple ideas that totally existed and put them together. He was fought for it. He was shoved out of Broadway all the way to New Jersey for 2 years before he was recognized for what he's done. Now, another thing that impressed me the other day, I mean, about a year ago, just right before quarantine, I travel a lot, and one of the destinations I traveled to was Hawaii for work. And this is Hyatt-centric in Waikiki Beach. There's a hotel I always stayed at, always for all my business trips, I would stay there. And I was in the elevator and I saw this poster. Make your stay more better, feeling lonely. I was like, oh, feeling lonely. What are they going to offer me? We could bring you a fish. And I immediately, when I see ideas that it's new to me, I start thinking about the brainstorming session that this marketing team had to come up with this idea. So I'm thinking like, okay, guys, we need to make sure this is a business center here. There's 5 hotels next to us. They all offer what we offer. They're all 4-star hotels. They all offer the views. They all have the restaurants. What can we do different? Okay. And I could see someone like hesitating in the back, like, should I say this? I'm going to get fired. Let's give them a pet while they're staying here. I could see that happening. And then of course he got like the eyes from everybody. Like, what did you say? Just give him a pet? Yeah. Like, he's verifying. He's an idea. It's a ridiculous, nonsensical idea when he first said it, because all ideas new ideas are ridiculous, nonsensical when you first say it, because they're half baked. They're not thought of. Let's give him a pet. Okay, well, what kind of pet? We don't want someone to ruin the carpet. What about a fish? You can put it in a bowl. Now it's being verified. Well, they're going to kill it. They're going to overfeed it. They're going to put it in the sun. You know what? We're going to make sure that they don't do that. We're going to give them an instruction on there, how to feed them, where to place them. We're going to actually put them in a spot and ask them not to move it. We'll bring it and we'll take it out. This is sushi. This was my companion for an entire year. I know every time I went back, I asked for sushi ahead of time. But I know he was different. So I know he died and they gave me someone else named Sushi. But for me, I live for things like this. I Instagram this, I put it on all social, and I noticed that a lot of people were doing the same thing at that hotel. And I'm thinking like, there's one person that stood up in that meeting and sent something so ridiculous. Let's give him a pet. And they allowed him to verify or take this idea and take it a little further. And it was a lot simpler than they thought, because the sabotage could have been dead right there. Are you crazy, pet? They're going to kill it. We're going to be responsible. They're going to ruin. They're going to drop this, and the carpet is going to be mildewed. There's a million reasons to make this not work. There's only few to make it work, but they actually hung on to the things that could make it work. And I think that's very, very special. Every business should think about that. How to innovate in everyday life. I'm almost done here, guys. Sorry, like 5 more minutes. First of all, this is all about the preparation. Always define your constraints, understand your challenges, and start gathering information. Make that a part of your life. To create a culture of innovation, you have to create a culture of knowledge and how to gather this information, how to gain this information. Next, provoke ideas. Whether you're a boss or a colleague or a family or a spouse or a child, your children, always push people to provoke them for new ideas. A body at rest will remain at rest upon acted upon by an external unbalanced force. This is Sir Isaac Newton. This is basically the first rule of gravity. Now, I came up with my own innovation law. This is my own, so you could use it in any way you want. A habit will remain a habit unless defeated by originality. And originality is figuring out a way how to defeat that habit. Now, guys, I'm sitting in an office here, and I always look at this in a sort of this way. I'm sitting on a chair, and I always think, if I leave here today, and we all abandoned this building. I don't know if you ever heard about a place in California called Salton Sea, where overnight they had from the Colorado River, they got some sulfuric sort of spill into their water, and overnight people had to abandon their homes. And now you go back and you go into their house, you could actually see the clothes still hung, TVs from the 50s are still there, furniture deteriorated. I could leave and come back in 20 years, and that chair is in a perfect balance. There's a pressure from the air holding it, and there's gravity from bottom holding. It's going to keep it there. This is like the most amazing habitual state for this chair. Unless if I come and I move it, I provoke it. So provoking an idea is a must. It does not happen on its own. If you leave it, it will be there. That habit will be forever there. The way you do it is always going to be the same way. Unless if I, from again, internally or externally, push that or provoke the idea. To innovate, you must overcome force of habit using some unbalanced forces. Figure out what your unbalanced forces are. Who are the unbalanced forces for you? Edward de Bono, this is basically the godfather of creativity. He's the inventor of lateral thinking. In the 80s, he consulted with almost all successful Fortune 500 companies and on how to be creative and how to implement creativity for their employees. And he identified a term called PO. This is basically, PO is that provoking element that's coming from outside. PO is an unbalanced force from outside. It came from hypotheses, possibility, suppose, poetry, something ethereal and emotional more so than an actual intellectual. And basically, PO is that unbalanced force. The PO can be you. It can be your spouse. It can be your children. It can be your boss. It can be your friends. It can be this. Identify that person or that element in your life that allows you to have a PO. A PO, which is the unbalanced force. Number 3, give absurd ideas respect. PO needs original ideas. For us to be provoked, we need to be able to speak. Let's give them a pat at that hotel. PO is a crazy, radical, nonsensical idea that somehow needs to be verified. Let's find out, is it going to be really crazy or is it going to take us somewhere new and special in our life? PO is an unbalanced force. And anytime you put a PO, which is the provoking of ideas, or that person or that element in your life that pushes you, that unbalanced force turns into new original ideas. It's not the strongest species that will survive, nor the most intelligent. It's the most responsive to change. Charles Darwin. Change is a must. Change has to be a part of our daily life. We've experienced change quite a bit the past year and a half. Some of us, again, dealt with it in a harsh way. Yes, I was one of them. You know, teaching, my work, my travel all stopped. I've never sat at home, the house more than 1 week a month in my life. All of a sudden, I'm like sitting at home and I actually literally look at my, oh, wow, I don't like my house. I literally said that to myself. I realized I don't like my house because I stayed there for so long. I did some remodel and all those things. But sometimes change is a must to take us to the next step of our life, the next step of our business, the next step of our family, the next step of our world. Be an optimist. New ideas. Give all ideas respect, please. Don't be one of those people, the cynical people that just always want to make sure something doesn't work before it's even spoken. Allow the people around you to hear it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least give it that opportunity. The difficulty is not finding new ideas, to be honest with you. The difficulty is escaping old ones. And that is some of the biggest human struggle, is how to escape these old ideas and create new ones, new stage, come up with new ways to do things and every possible way around us. Finally, celebrate ideas from no matter where they come from. Celebrate, again, diversity and collaboration. Surround yourself with a network of people that really allows you to see a different perspective, a different experience, a different personality. Surrounding yourself with people just like you or think the same way as you sometimes puts you in the box more than you can think, especially when it comes to creativity. Pushing yourself and pushing your ability to engage with different perspectives and different experiences really allow you to have another, not just a window, I always call it a door into this world that you might have missed or you might have not seen. Finally, guys, again, as I started saying, that what we do in the world of design is not just making beautiful things. We're really making, especially nowadays, we know that, post-COVID, or not post-COVID, but during COVID, what people started doing, they focused on their environments because they realized they cannot connect to them. They cannot engage with them properly. They can't work with them. They can't teach with them. A lot of people we had the best month of our company's existence last month. And I'm proud to say that, not because we came up with like the best way to do business, because people were hungry to change their environments because now they're engaging differently with it. Now, when we engage with the environments, we want to make sure these people that want that environment to be functional, to be emotionally rewarding, we want to make sure that they actually are functioning as better human beings in the world altogether. So generating new ideas is no longer just a task for you because, to take you yourself further. It's really honestly, and I know this is maybe, a little tapping ourselves on the shoulder saying we're making the better place in this world, but we are making this world a better place. And I hope that we keep pushing ourselves because, innovation is a must when it comes to design. Innovation is a must when it comes to business. And, innovation is a must to navigate even as simple as your family life. Guys, thank you so much. My name is Feras Irikat. I appreciate you guys being here. I want to thank Kristen and Caitlin and my colleague Lacey for allowing me to come here and speak to you today. Again, we'll start with the questions now. And if anybody needs to run, thank you again. I appreciate you being here. Look out for the certificate that will come your way from, I believe Caitlin will send it.
Thank you, Feras. We don't have any questions yet, so if anyone has them, if they just want to type them into the chat box, I can read them out.
And if they come later, if anybody wants to send them separately in an email to Caitlin, I could more than happy to email you back and answer your question if you don't want to do it here.
Well, I gotta be a little careful.
Feras, thank you so much. This is Kirsten. This was absolutely fabulous, fascinating, and I cannot wait to watch the recording again. It's full of incredible content. So thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Lots of love to all of you guys, and stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully we get to do this again soon. Thank you again to my colleague Lacey for also engaging and making sure this happens and happens properly. Thank you guys again to Decorative Material and their entire staff. All right, guys. Thanks again.
Thanks for us.
See you later. Bye-bye.